You know, in the world of electric vehicles, there's a lot of buzz about who's next, who's got the revolutionary tech. Back in the mid-2010s, one name started making some serious noise: Nikola. Not named after the famous scientist Nikola Tesla, but rather his first name. They promised a future of hydrogen electric trucks, a true game-changer for heavy-duty transportation. The vision was compelling, an ambitious play in a market craving innovation. It was all about disrupting logistics and proving that sustainable, zero-emission freight was not just a dream, but an imminent reality. And boy, did people buy into that vision, hook, line, and sinker. So, how did this whole saga begin? It all started in 2014. Trevor Milton, the founder, had this grand idea to build hydrogen-powered semi-trucks. Think big rigs, but without the diesel fumes, fueled instead by hydrogen, producing only water vapor. It sounded incredibly futuristic and, frankly, exactly what the world needed to tackle climate change and optimize freight. The pitch was simple: combine electric drivetrains with hydrogen fuel cells for extended range, solving one of the biggest challenges for long-haul EVs. It was a bold claim, a massive undertaking, and Milton was excellent at selling that dream. Fast forward a couple of years to December 2016. This is where our story really takes a turn. Nikola unveiled its flagship prototype, the Nikola 1. It was a sleek, futuristic semi-truck, unlike anything anyone had seen. The company released a glossy promotional video, showing the Nikola 1 appearing to drive effortlessly down a desert road, gleaming in the sunlight, seemingly under its own power. Milton declared it a fully functional truck, capable of driving. This video went viral, capturing imaginations and cementing Nikola's image as a legitimate, cutting-edge player in the EV space. It was a PR masterpiece. But here's the thing. That iconic video, the one that made everyone believe Nikola had cracked the code, was built on a monumental deception. The Nikola 1, in that video, wasn't actually driving under its own power. It had no functioning powertrain. The sleek prototype was, in fact, filmed rolling downhill on a stretch of paved road. Yes, you heard that right. A multi-million-dollar company, promoting a revolutionary product, showing it drive by simply letting gravity do the work. It's almost unbelievable when you think about it, the sheer audacity of it all. This was the core of the lie. Imagine the scene: a truck that looks ready for the road, but under the hood, it's essentially an empty shell. To achieve that driving shot, they had to transport the Nikola 1 to a slight incline. Then, they simply let off the brakes and filmed it coasting down. The camera angles, the editing, the music, it all masterfully created the illusion of a powerful vehicle in motion. This wasn't just a white lie or an exaggeration, it was a carefully orchestrated piece of visual trickery designed to mislead investors and the public about the true state of their technology. Which, honestly, is pretty wild to think about. Despite this underlying fabrication, Nikola's momentum grew. The public, captivated by the promise of clean energy and sleek designs, saw Nikola as a legitimate contender. Media outlets covered them extensively, and Trevor Milton became a charismatic figurehead, a visionary entrepreneur seemingly on the cusp of revolutionizing an entire industry. His social media presence was constant, engaging directly with fans and investors, amplifying the hype. This wasn't just about selling trucks, it was about selling a dream, a narrative of a future Nikola would build. And for a while, it worked exceptionally well. Nikola's strategy wasn't just about building a truck, it was about building a company that could go public and raise significant capital. Traditional IPOs are tough, so Nikola took a different route: a SPAC merger. SPACs, or special purpose acquisition companies, became a popular way for companies to go public faster and with less scrutiny than a traditional IPO. It was a hot trend in 2020, and Nikola was perfectly positioned to capitalize on it, with its compelling story and a public eager for the next big EV stock. This move would catapult them into the financial stratosphere. In June 2020, Nikola officially merged with VectoIQ Acquisition Corporation, a SPAC. Almost overnight, Nikola became a publicly traded company. And the stock? it absolutely skyrocketed. Investors, drawn by the hype around electric and hydrogen vehicles, and Milton's persuasive vision, poured money in. At its peak, Nikola's market capitalization briefly surpassed Ford's, an automotive giant with over a century of manufacturing experience. This was a company that, at the time, had no revenue from actual vehicle sales, yet it was valued higher than established titans. It was an incredible, almost unbelievable, surge. Much of Nikola's initial success on the public market can be attributed to Trevor Milton himself. He was a master storyteller, articulate and relentlessly positive. He painted a picture of a future where Nikola trucks dominated the highways, powered by a network of hydrogen fueling stations. He actively used social media, particularly Twitter, to engage with investors, respond to critics, and further build out his narrative. This direct communication fostered a sense of community and belief among his followers, making them feel like they were part of something revolutionary. He was the face, the voice, and the driving force behind the brand's public image. However, as with any company experiencing such meteoric growth, particularly one built on big promises and little tangible product, scrutiny was inevitable. Enter Hindenburg Research. Hindenburg is a firm known for its investigative short selling, meaning they bet against companies they believe are overvalued or engaged in fraud. They dig deep, publishing extensive reports detailing their findings. For Nikola, the alarm bells were ringing, and Hindenburg was paying close attention, meticulously examining every claim, every video, and every public statement made by Trevor Milton and the company. Then came the bombshell. In September 2020, just a few months after Nikola's stock surge, Hindenburg Research published a scathing report titled Nikola, How to Parlay an Ocean of Lies into a Partnership with the Largest Auto OEM in America. That's quite a title, isn't it? The report laid out a shocking array of allegations, painting a picture of systemic deception. It wasn't just about one video, it was about a pattern of misleading statements regarding Nikola's technology, manufacturing capabilities, and even product orders. This wasn't some minor critique, it was a full frontal assault on the company's credibility. And it hit hard. The most damning revelation from Hindenburg's report centered squarely on that 2016 promotional video. Hindenburg didn't just say the truck was rolling downhill, they provided meticulous analysis, including satellite imagery and photos, to prove it. They showed the exact location of the filming, identified the slight incline, and highlighted how the camera angles were strategically chosen to hide the fact that the truck was simply coasting. They even managed to find footage of the truck being towed to the top of the hill. It was undeniable proof, laid bare for the world to see, exposing the very core of Nikola's public image as a lie. But the fraud wasn't isolated to just that one video. Hindenburg's investigation went much deeper, alleging a pattern of deception concerning Nikola's entire technology stack. For example, they claimed Nikola misrepresented its battery technology, suggesting it was more advanced than it truly was. They also highlighted issues with the supposed in-house production of key components, indicating that much of what Nikola showcased was either off the shelf or simply not functional. It wasn't just about a driving truck, it was about misrepresenting core technological capabilities that were central to Nikola's value proposition. This was a critical distinction. One of the cornerstones of Nikola's pitch was its hydrogen fuel cell technology. The idea was that these trucks would generate electricity on board using hydrogen, offering superior range to pure battery electric vehicles. However, Hindenburg alleged that Nikola often passed off third-party or incomplete systems as proprietary, cutting-edge innovations. They suggested that the company exaggerated its progress in developing a commercially viable hydrogen fuel cell, giving the impression of an advanced, integrated system that simply didn't exist in the way Milton described. This was a significant blow to their perceived technological leadership. Beyond the tech itself, Nikola also made bold claims about its manufacturing capabilities and facilities. Milton often spoke of building state-of-the-art factories to produce thousands of trucks annually. Hindenburg's report, however, painted a different picture, suggesting these claims were largely aspirational rather than actual. They questioned the timeline and capacity of these facilities, implying that the company was nowhere near ready for mass production. This further solidified the narrative that Nikola was a company built on a facade, from its driving trucks to its production lines. It really started to chip away at their credibility. The impact of Hindenburg's report was immediate and devastating. Nikola's stock, which had been soaring just weeks prior, plummeted. Investors, suddenly faced with undeniable evidence of deception, rushed to sell their shares. The market capitalization that had briefly topped Ford's vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. This was a clear example of how quickly investor confidence can evaporate when a company's core claims are exposed as fraudulent. Billions of dollars in market value were wiped out, a stark reminder that hype alone cannot sustain a company in the long run. It was a brutal wake-up call for many. Adding another layer to the drama, the Hindenburg report also directly impacted Nikola's high-profile partnership with General Motors. Just before the report dropped, GM had announced a major deal to produce Nikola's Badger pickup truck and supply hydrogen fuel cell technology. This partnership was a huge validation for Nikola. But with the fraud exposed, the deal was significantly scaled back, and eventually, the Badger program was scrapped entirely. GM revised its agreement, no longer taking an equity stake in Nikola. It was a public humiliation that further cemented the damage to Nikola's reputation and business prospects. In the immediate aftermath of Hindenburg's report and the subsequent market chaos, Trevor Milton's position became untenable. The founder, the visionary, the charismatic public face of Nikola, stepped down as executive chairman in late September 2020. This was a significant development, a clear acknowledgement of the severity of the allegations and the reputational damage. While he cited a desire to defend himself, his departure was seen by many as an attempt by the company to distance itself from the growing scandal and try to regain some semblance of credibility. It marked the end of an era for Nikola. The consequences of Hindenburg's report weren't just financial and reputational. The allegations of fraud quickly caught the attention of federal regulators. Both the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, and the Department of Justice, the DOJ, launched investigations into Nikola and Trevor Milton. This meant official probes into potential securities fraud, wire fraud, and other white-collar crimes. When the SEC and DOJ come knocking, it's a very serious matter. It shifted the narrative from a business failure to a criminal investigation, elevating the stakes considerably for everyone involved. The net was closing in. Let's take a moment to compare the stark difference between the narrative Nikola presented and the reality Hindenburg uncovered. On one side, you had a visionary company with fully functional hydrogen trucks, advanced proprietary tech, and vast manufacturing capabilities ready to disrupt an industry. On the other, Hindenburg exposed a truck that rolled downhill, largely in proven or misrepresented technology, and aspirational manufacturing plans that were far from operational. The gap between what was promised and what existed was not just wide, it was a chasm, built on a foundation of deliberate misdirection. Ultimately, the fraud at Nikola came with a hefty price tag. Not just for investors who lost billions as the stock crashed, but also for the company's reputation and the broader EV industry. It eroded trust at a time when clean energy technologies desperately need it. The Nikola story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked hype, the allure of charismatic founders, and the critical importance of due diligence. It served as a stark reminder that even in the most exciting and innovative sectors, the fundamentals of honest business practices remain paramount. The consequences stretched far beyond just Nikola. Hindenburg Research, by meticulously exposing the details of Nikola's fraud, played a significant role in bringing accountability. Short sellers often get a bad rap, but in cases like Nikola, their investigative work serves a crucial function. They act as watchdogs, digging into claims that might otherwise go unchallenged, protecting markets from systematic deception. Their report wasn't just a critique, it was a dossier of evidence that directly led to regulatory action and, eventually, legal consequences for those involved. It underscores the importance of independent, critical analysis in financial markets, which is something we really need. So, where does Nikola stand today? The company continued, albeit without its founder and with a severely tarnished reputation. It has since shifted its strategy, focusing more on legitimate, verifiable progress in hydrogen fuel cell technology and battery electric trucks. They've faced significant challenges, but they are still in operation, attempting to rebuild trust and deliver on some of their original promises. The path has been arduous, marked by skepticism and a constant need to prove that their current claims are, in fact, real. It's a long climb back from such a public fall, wouldn't you agree? For investors, the Nikola saga offers some critical lessons. First, always be wary of hype, especially when it outpaces tangible results. Second, a charismatic founder doesn't equate to a sound business. Third, due diligence isn't just for professionals. Retail investors should also scrutinize claims, especially those from companies with little revenue but sky-high valuations. And finally, remember that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. The allure of quick riches in speculative markets can be powerful, but the risk of profound losses, as seen with Nikola, is just as real. It's a tough lesson, but an important one. And finally, we touch on me, which, in the research brief, hinted at the unfolding legal consequences for Trevor Milton himself. Following the Hindenburg report and subsequent federal investigations, Milton faced serious charges. In July 2021, he was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 counts of criminal fraud, 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of securities fraud. The indictment specifically cited his misleading statements about Nikola's technology, including the infamous truck rolling downhill video. This wasn't just a corporate misstep, it was now a personal legal battle with significant implications for Milton's freedom. This was the ultimate fallout. The indictment meant that Trevor Milton, once hailed as a visionary, now stood accused of defrauding investors through pervasive lies. The charges detailed how he allegedly used social media and other public statements to manipulate stock prices and mislead potential buyers. It's a classic case of alleged pump and dump, but with an added layer of technological fakery. This legal battle became a high-profile case, drawing significant media attention and serving as a stark reminder of the legal repercussions that can follow corporate deception. For Milton, the ride down the hill was far from over, and it would prove to be a much steeper descent. The Nikola scandal left a mark on the wider electric vehicle industry. While many legitimate EV companies are doing groundbreaking work, this incident cast a shadow of skepticism. It highlighted the need for rigorous due diligence from investors, partners, and the media. It also prompted a closer look at the SPAC merger process, questioning whether it provided sufficient investor protection. The industry had to work harder to differentiate genuine innovation from mere hype, to rebuild the trust that incidents like Nikola's had eroded. It's a reminder that even in exciting, rapidly evolving sectors, the basic principles of honesty and transparency are non-negotiable. The story of Nikola, and the truck that rolled downhill on a lie, remains an enduring cautionary tale. It illustrates how a compelling vision, combined with powerful marketing and a charismatic leader, can create enormous value out of very little substance. But it also demonstrates the inevitable unraveling when that substance is found to be fabricated. The 2016 video, once a symbol of Nikola's promise, became the irrefutable evidence of its deception. It's a powerful lesson in distinguishing between genuine technological advancement and cleverly constructed illusions, something investors and consumers alike should always be mindful of. Let's quickly recap the core mechanism of the fraud. Nikola founder Trevor Milton promoted his hydrogen electric truck company through a 2016 promotional video. This video famously showed the Nikola One truck appearing to drive under its own power. The crucial lie was that the truck was actually filmed rolling downhill, propelled by gravity, with no functioning powertrain on board. This single piece of manufactured footage became the linchpin of a much larger deception, fueling an entire company's rise and eventual fall. It was a simple trick, but one with massive financial and legal repercussions. Pretty wild, right? To put it all in perspective, let's quickly look at the timeline. Founded in 2014, Nikola built its initial buzz. The deceptive 2016 video was a key milestone. Then came the explosion, the 2020 SPAC merger and the subsequent stock surge that made Nikola a darling of the market. But just months later, in September 2020, Hindenburg Research published its damning report, exposing the rolling downhill video and other technology claims. This led to Milton's departure and the launch of federal investigations, unraveling the company's credibility at breakneck speed. It was a rapid ascent, followed by an even more rapid descent. The Nikola story also shines a light on the human desire to believe in the next big thing. Investors and the public are often eager to back companies promising revolutionary change, especially in sectors like clean energy. This eagerness can, unfortunately, create fertile ground for deception. When a company's narrative is so compelling, and its founder so persuasive, it can be easy to overlook red flags and bypass thorough scrutiny. The promise of a greener, more efficient future is powerful, and Nikola expertly tapped into that emotional and financial desire, which is a powerful psychological lever to pull. This saga serves as a powerful testament to the absolute necessity of due diligence. Whether you're an individual investor, a major institutional fund, or a partner company like GM, scrutinizing claims is paramount. It's about looking beyond the flashy videos and charismatic presentations to examine the actual technology, the financial health, and the integrity of the leadership. Had more thorough due diligence been applied earlier, perhaps the extent of the deception could have been uncovered before billions of dollars were invested. It's a painstaking process, but the cost of skipping it can be catastrophic, as Nikola clearly demonstrated. The ripple effect of the Nikola scandal extended beyond just the company and its investors. It impacted the broader perception of SPACs, leading to increased regulatory scrutiny and a cooling of the market for these fast-track public listings. It also made traditional automotive manufacturers, like GM, more cautious about partnerships with unproven startups. This incident created a climate where every ambitious EV startup now faces a higher bar of proof and transparency. The trust had been broken, and rebuilding it required everyone in the ecosystem to be more vigilant and discerning. It definitely changed the game. What Nikola ultimately sold was the illusion of progress. They presented a future that seemed within reach, but without doing the incredibly difficult, nitty-gritty work of engineering and manufacturing to get there. The rolling downhill video wasn't just a gimmick, it symbolized this entire approach. It showcased an outcome, a moving truck, without any of the actual, underlying functionality. This is a crucial distinction. True innovation comes from solving complex problems, not from cleverly sidestepping them with visual effects. It's a tough reminder that appearances can be incredibly deceiving, especially in high-stakes industries. So, the legacy of Nikola isn't just about a promising EV startup. It's about a cautionary tale of corporate deception and the severe consequences that follow. From its ambitious founding in 2014, through the explosive 2020 SPAC merger and stock surge, to Hindenburg Research's devastating September 2020 report exposing the rolling downhill video and other technological falsehoods, the narrative is clear. It highlights the fine line between bold ambition and outright fraud. The Nikola One, in that infamous video, stands as a silent monument to the power of a lie, and the eventual, inevitable truth that brings it all tumbling down. The Nikola story is also a stark illustration of the cost of taking shortcuts. Instead of patiently developing and proving their technology, they opted for an accelerated path built on exaggeration and outright fabrication. This might offer short-term gains, but in the long run, it leads to disaster. True innovation requires integrity, persistence, and genuine breakthroughs, not elaborate charades. There are no shortcuts to building a legitimate, successful company, especially one aiming to tackle complex engineering challenges. The market, eventually, sees through the smoke and mirrors. And when it does, the fall is swift and painful. In conclusion, the Nikola saga serves as a crucial reminder for everyone involved in the modern economy. For entrepreneurs, it's a lesson in integrity. For investors, it's a call for rigorous due diligence. For the media, it's a plea for critical scrutiny. And for the public, it's a demonstration that not all that glitters is gold. The story of the Nikola 1, appearing to drive under its own power but actually rolling downhill on a carefully constructed lie, will undoubtedly be discussed in business schools and boardrooms for years to come. It's a fascinating, if disheartening, chapter in the history of disruptive technology. Thanks for watching.